I'm standing outside Tufts Medical Center emergency room. Today is officially Marathon Monday, but the ER has been prepping for weeks. The staff inside consists of a few new faces, but many were here last year when the bombs went off at the finish line. While the bombs turned the ER upside down, it seems that many are excited for this year and prepared for anything. From the outside, it looks like every other hospital. It's made of brick, has signs all over, and ambulances blaring by every few moments with new patients. The inside looks pretty standard as well, with staff in scrubs running around and helping patients. However, what you don't see is the behind-the-scenes preparation for the daunting anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing. Those in charge in both the ER and the hospital have had several meetings over the past month to discuss staffing and new policies for the day. ER techs are making IV kits prior to the race for runners who need fluids quickly. I was able to talk with one of the techs, Dave, who was working last year and will work this year. He told us about his experience last year and why he felt the need to work again this year.
It was something I just felt like I had to do because of everything that happened last year. It was a very emotionally long day. Obviously, it was one of the craziest experiences any of us have ever had, having seen all that and everything. And as kind of like a closure, I felt like I needed to work it again to see something, just to kind of see it through after a year later.
After reliving what he calls one of the craziest experiences he and some others have had, Dave was able to give us a tour of one of the trauma rooms the bomb victims were put in.
So this is one of our standard trauma rooms. This is that we use for most trauma patients that come in. The stretcher that's right here is actually a trauma-specific stretcher. So if we need x-rays or anything like that, there's actually a slot. We can slide plates right under so that we can get x-rays quickly. We have computer monitors in all of the trauma rooms. That way nurses and doctors are able to document if they need to put in orders right away for CAT scans, things like that. They can do it right at the patient's bedside so they don't have to leave and then come back in. They're able to stay in and monitor the patient. We have a Pyxis machine so that if they need any sort of different medications, there's a lot of different emergency medications in there that we're able to use and get to right away. And then we have a ventilator set up so that if the patient does in fact end up getting intubated and needs an artificial airway, we're able to use the ventilator to help breathe for them.
After the tour, I had a chance to sit down with Dr. Amir Darvish after he had left his desk for the day. Dr. Darvish was the attending on the day of the marathon last year and will be again this year. While some staff were overwhelmed by the patient last year, Dr. Darvish felt rather calm about the kind of patients that, as they say, rolled in that day.
The patients are the type of patients that we see in the emergency room every day, where there's this overwhelming feeling of disbelief as far as what has happened to them, and we see that on a regular basis.
While the patient's injuries didn't worry Dr. Darvish, he did feel a wave of uncertainty after hearing the CMed phone tell them bombs had gone off at the finish line.
So there's almost a sense of disbelief because you kind of, you can't, first when you hear it, you're like, wait a minute, I need to hear this again. What did it just come through? So there is that immediate response that, well, this is not happening, or there might be something. So I think initially when we heard that there was explosions, we thought that there was maybe a gas leak of some kind, which caused, because that's the last thing that you would think about on a day like this to happen. But I think once we got more information, I think we realized the extent of the tragedy.
Dr. Darvish felt the bombing was not the worst tragedy he had seen in his career. During his residency, he worked in a New York City hospital when 9/11 happened. This prior experience, however, is what he felt gave him the ability to be a leader at Tufts.
In the emergency room, we work as a team, so everyone is part of the team. But at some point, there has to be a team leader, and either right or wrong, I think people look at the physician.
Like any good leader, Dr. Darvish admitted he wasn't the only leader that day. In fact, he was able to remember vividly the strong efforts of one woman in particular.
I can think of a few nurses that day. Laura, for example, who's one of our charge nurses, she stood up, and she is someone who's quite petite and tiny, and one that generally doesn't raise her voice, but when she spoke up, people listened because she normally is not like that.
I had spoken with Laura earlier, and it wasn't her ability to raise her voice with such a small stature that amazed me. It was her ability to take control despite what was going on in her personal life in connection to the bombing.
My immediate first thought went to my husband, who is on the Boston Police Force, and I just needed to know that he was okay, and then I knew from that point forward I could continue and go into complete work mode and just put everything else aside.
It's clear by the daffodils planted in memory of the event out front, the vibrant decorations, and a thumbprint tree for everyone to sign that teamwork is key for Tufts. And according to the staff, last year was no exception.
We did a great job, though, with each other. We all looked out for each other throughout the day and made sure we were all doing okay. It was just it was an unbelievable teamwork experience here.
From the nurses, techs, everyone who's there taking care of patients, or even our transport teams. That's what really made me really proud of working here, is that they all came together.
1 year later, it seems the Tufts Medical Center emergency staff is ready to take on one of their favorite events. Getting prepared early and remaining calm no matter how busy it gets is what makes Tufts a well-oiled machine. Decorated in blue and yellow, they truly are Boston strong.